Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday stream. Today is Sunday, August 17th. And you know what? I'm just going to take a peek and make sure that I'm using the correct microphone because sometimes I screw that up. Welcome. My name is Angela. I am a software engineer and front-end developer in St. Paul, Minnesota. Welcome to my little YouTube channel where we practice HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No frameworks, no libraries, not because we are in denial about those things, but because we just like to practice and get back to basics. And we have some folks in the chat. Raza Khan, hello, welcome. Monique Robinson is here. Greetings. Monique is one of the mods, so make sure you say good morning to Monique. Akib is here. Good morning. Or what time is it here? It is 10:30 a.m. It is 10:30 a.m. Rahul is here. Welcome, Rahul from Nepal. Welcome, my friend. I'm happy to have you. One of my most thoughtful subscribers. You're all thoughtful. Rahul has been an awesome addition to the channel. I love having you here. Go Elmo Go. Also one of the mods. We love the people who come back every weekend and hang out and chat. I appreciate you guys all so much. And yeah, I'm just happy to see everybody here. It's really, it's been a year since I started streaming, and I remember the first couple of weekends how terrified I was. And if somebody clicked on the stream, even if it was just for a few seconds and then clicked off, I was like, oh my God, who was that? What did they want? And now here I am a year later. There's people, I'm seeing the same friendly faces in the chat, and it's just really exciting for me. I talk about it all the time and I feel like I'm just a broken record, but I can't help it because I dreamed about doing YouTube for such a long time, and now here I am. I'm actually doing it and people actually watch. So this is just my way of saying thank you to the people who continue to show up and support me and hang out with me and who love front-end development as much as I do. I appreciate you all. And yeah, Monique, thank you. Looking forward to another session of HTML, vanilla, CSS, and JavaScript. Me too. I'm also looking forward to that. So, and I touch on this a little bit in pretty much every stream, but I'm just really going to start emphasizing, well, I think I already emphasized this, but I'm just going to do it more often, that information does not equal implementation. This is my favorite saying that I just heard in the last week. And I really want to encourage you to get out of tutorial hell. If you feel like that's where you're at right now, I want to encourage you to get out of tutorial hell. I want you to go to Google and just search for a landing page template. And I want you to do exactly what I'm doing. Practice. If you have a framework that you love using, use it. If you just learned React and you think it's fun and interesting and you enjoy it, do it. You don't need to do vanilla everything like I do. I would like you, though, to understand some vanilla concepts. I would like you to know the difference between a div and a span. I would like you to know the difference between display inline and display block. I would like you to understand positioning. However, what I actually think is more important is that you are practicing and you are doing project-based learning. Tutorials and courses are great because they introduce you to the topics. They give you the syntax. They give you a starting place for how to work. But the real learning comes from project-based learning. This is what we do here. This is why you're not ever going to see me make a course. I dread, honestly, the idea of making a course. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the people who do make courses. I'm just saying they introduce you to the idea, but what you really need is a project in order to learn. And that is going to really That's really what's going to prepare you for a job. So do what I'm doing. Find a mockup and build it. You just need to practice, okay? I just want you to practice. Okay. So here's where we left off yesterday. We made terrific progress on our header. It's not perfect. There are things that we have to go back and figure out and take care of. And that's totally fine. And here's the thing. This is how I work. I don't do everything all at once. Yes, I'm getting this header whipped into shape, but I'm not going to do everything today. I'm going to take care of the responsive styling and the responsive functionality today, but I need to come back through and also take care of some of the accessibility. So it's not all going to be perfect today. I just don't work that way. I go top to bottom and I do it 2 or 3 times. So we've got all of the markup. Then we start to implement some styles for the layout. And then I start to dig in section by section. But even then I will come back because I just get sick and tired of working on something. And I want to move on to the next thing. And then I want to come back and finish some of the details. That's just how I work. So figure out for yourself how you work. And again, the more projects you work on, the more you're going to learn about yourself and how you like to approach things. So my approach is not the approach that everybody needs to take, but maybe you can learn something from it, right? So, okay, that was like rant number 2, and we're not even 10 minutes in, but what the heck? I guess it's my channel. I can rant as much as I want. So here we go. This is where we left off yesterday. So let's go ahead and get this nav drawer styled. And then let's write a little bit of JavaScript. Here's our nav right here. And then we're going to write some JavaScript to implement the click events for our buttons. Oh, and Rahul, I'm so glad you're here because what is this right here? This is an active class on the body. So for years, I've been doing an active class on the container and then the button and then the this and the that. And a couple weeks ago, Rahul was like, why don't you just put an active class on the body? And I was like, yeah, that actually is kind of like a good idea. So I did a video not last week, the week before, accessible responsive nav bar, and that's what I did is I just put the active class on the body, and it definitely made my life a lot easier. So that is that. So thank you for the suggestion. Thank you for the suggestion. Another reason that I love having the mid-level and the senior level developers hang out with me because we get to share ideas, right? We get to share ideas. So yeah, Nakib says, I agree that learning by projects is a great way. Because I have yet to take a tutorial where the tutorial told me how to solve the specific problem that I had. This literally never happened, right? The tutorial introduces me to the ideas and the concepts, but it's never actually told me how to solve the problem that I have. So the real learning and problem solving comes from project-based learning. So everything has their place, but I just want to encourage you to get started working on projects. So one moment, hold please. And Rahul says there are little tricks and things that we overlook that go a long way. Agreed. Agreed. And building up kind of this little community of people from literally around the globe around the globe with different levels of experience. Like, we all get to share ideas, right? Like, I may do something that you had never thought of before. You do something that had never occurred to me before, and we get to share those ideas. So, all right. So let's go ahead and get this styled. And I found the pause button for this video, this coach video, and I will say that this is a nice site. It's React. It's a nice site, but let's take a look. I was kind of looking at, oh, stop. Where's the, okay, maybe we need to go back to Castle Arts. Pause. We're not going to do like the slide up from the bottom, although there it comes from the right at that size. So that would probably be more of like a tablet or iPad size. And then from the bottom, once we get down to mobile, it slides up from the bottom. But what I really want is down here. And I'm guessing that they're using, castlearts.com is using like some kind of a CSS framework or front end framework for a lot of this functionality. Do I go to CSS Tricks to learn new things? Not as much as I used to. In the early days of my career, yes, I did. I don't go there as much as I used to. At this point in my career, I'm not I seek out information when I need information. So I practice a lot, obviously, because I am practicing every weekend in the streams, but I don't seek out new information unless I am specifically knuckles deep in a project and I don't know how to do something. I rarely end up on CSS Tricks anymore. I'm almost always on MDN reading documentation, or I'm getting help from ChatGPT. Those are my two biggest sources right now when I'm looking for new information. I also think that CSS Tricks the last couple of years, this is an interesting conversation that you bring this up. Just in the last month or so, I sort of learned about what's happened with CSS Tricks over the last couple of years, which is that Chris Coyier sold CSS Tricks to DigitalOcean, which I did not know. I knew that DigitalOcean was like a sponsor of that site because DigitalOcean is splashed all over, and I use DigitalOcean for all of my hosting. I really like them. I've been with them for over 10 years. I didn't know, though, that CSS Tricks had actually been sold to DigitalOcean. And Chris Coyier said that he did that so he could put his time and energy and focus into CodePen because he had been running CSS Tricks for 15 years or something like that at that point. And then DigitalOcean let it fall by the wayside for a year, 18 months, 2 years, something like that. And then Chris Coyier tried to get it back. He wrote on his personal blog that he tried to get it back because fired the editor, this guy Jeff, I don't know remember his last name. They fired him, and then they just did nothing for like 2 years. And then he tried to get it back, and they didn't really respond. And then they said, we'll think about it. And then I think they just kind of said no. Then they rehired their editor, and now they are publishing again. So I was like, wow, I didn't know all that. I had no idea all of that had happened. So Chris Coyier wrote about the entire thing on his blog. I just read this within the last month or so. So I don't know. It's neither here nor there. but it doesn't feel, suddenly it doesn't feel like the same site now that I have this new information. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about that. Did you even know about all that? Did you even know about all that? So, okay. So, whoops. You can't really see it here. Let me take myself off. But do you see down here in the lower left-hand corner? So we've got social media icons. We've got this login button, and then we've got the selector for choosing a language and choosing a currency, and then we have a chat bubble. So we don't really have social media icons as part of our mockup, at least not in the header. I'm not going to worry about this login button because that already, so weird. Oh, I guess did we decide to leave? No, we did put my account here. Okay, we can make that like a pill-shaped button. It's going to be similar to this. We'll do something similar to this little layout down here at the bottom, and then we'll have our nav here. So, all right. And so here's our nav container. Here's our button to close. Here's our main menu, and then here is our mobile buttons. So this is fixed. This is position fixed. So we can position this relative, I think we can position this relative to this using position absolute, and let's just paste it down. Let's just paste this down at the bottom of this element. I think I'm right. Yeah, check it out. Check it out. I just Googled it and Chris Coyer's personal blog came up and it was a whole big story. So I don't know. It just CSS Tricks feels a little different to me now that I have this information. Okay. So we're looking for mobile buttons. There we go. These are display none on desktop. Here is our media query display block. And then, like I said, the nav with a class of navigation is already position fixed. So let's do this position absolute inside that container. Position absolute. We'll do bottom 0, left 0. I'm just going to do width 100%. There we go. There we go. So now we are pasted down here. And we can just make this into a little grid. A little grid. So that lives down there and that's perfect. Okay, so here's the main menu. So here are all of our styles for the main menu on desktop. Here we go. Here's our media query. I'm going to put it right here. So we're a little bit reverse engineering, right? So if on desktop it's flex flow, I think I'm just going to change the flex direction to column, which changes the orientation of justify content and align items. And I think we also need to take out the gap as well. So I'm going to do flex direction. Oops. Column. Justify content. I'm just going to say center. Align items is already center. And gap 0. There we go. And then that sits right underneath the button. Now, so the way I like to style mobile navigation is I make sure that these LIs and anchor elements are display block, so they take up the full width. They take up the full width. Other people might do it different, but I want this entire area from left to right to be clickable. So I'm going to make the LI and the anchor both display block, and then we'll add a little bit of padding to give it a bigger tap target. It's wide enough. I don't know if you can see it there. Oh, I'll put myself back on the screen here. It's wide enough. It's 51.59. So these are all wide enough. Almost. The blog isn't. But they're not really tall enough, and we do want to make sure they have that nice tap target. So do we really need mobile buttons to be absolute? Won't margin top auto work? That's a good question. Let's try it. Oh, navigation doesn't have a flex class. My bad. But I actually think that this is a good point. So let's try it. You know, I usually do auto on the left and right. I don't ever really do it on the top. So there we go. I'm willing to try anything. Okay, so I'm going to make the menu item and the menu item anchor element display block, and we'll give this some padding. Let's find our markup. Here we go. Display block should automatically make it 100%. Also display block. And then I'm just going to give this some padding of 0.5 rems all the way around. That automatically spaces things out. Do I have to put... Yeah. There you go. And I'm not normally a fan of center align, maybe, but I don't know, on menus I seem to do it. So I'm just going to say text align center. There we go. So now these have a nice tap target. In fact, they're not tall enough though. They're 42.4 pixels tall. So I'm going to go ahead and just give this a little more padding. There we go. Raza Khan is here. Hello, welcome. Yeah, if you have a question, go ahead. Okay, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions. Let's avoid putting in several chats at once. So maybe you're just checking to see if things are okay. But okay, so this looks fine. And then I'm just going to add a border bottom on these menu items. So we'll say border. Okay, there we go. All right. And I'm just going to do a nice light gray border right here. There we go. Oh, we could maybe do something a little lighter or a little slightly darker. Perfect. I love it. And then I'm going to add a border to the top of the UL, which is the main menu. Yeah, Raza, I did go ahead and put you in a timeout just to, you know, it's not like we have the busiest chat on YouTube, but, you know, just to keep things, I don't know, little less wacky. So. Okay, so this I think is perfect. So now you can see that when we hover over any part of this, this is an active link. And I understand on mobile that we don't hover, we tap, but I want to give people a nice tap target. And I like this. So we've got a minimum height of, it looks like 51.2 pixels. And that's perfect. The minimum tap target for accessibility is 48 pixels by 48 pixels. So, and this looks nice. And then of course we have our button. Let's make sure that our buttons have a cursor pointer. And I'm actually going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and do that right here. Oh, this is funny. I think he just wanted the number one spot and was waiting to see if he would send another message. That's funny. If I could turn that off, I would, because I don't really understand it, this leaderboard thing that's going on with the chat. I did find an article on Google to turn it off and it didn't work. So I'm not really sure why. So that's funny. So all good, all good. So hopefully, Raza, you're not too upset, but sometimes it's okay for a timeout, right? Even as adults, we can take a timeout. We can just go sit and think for a second, collect ourselves. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Oh, thank you. You know what? Lots of practice. So, okay. So I like how this looks. Let's give our menu. So we've got menu button and close button, but we also have, Where are you here? Where's our open button? It's right here. Here's our open button, which you can't see. Let's give those a hover active focus state. Yeah, we'll give those a hover active focus state, and we could just style those with menu button. Menu button right here. So first of all, let's make sure that we have a background color of transparent. And then let's make sure, we'll just say border radius, I'm going to say 10 pixels. And then we'll do menu button. Menu button SVG. And do we have styles for these already? I don't think so. We'll say stroke black. And then I'm going to say menu button focus. Hover active. And these are pseudo classes, which mean in a pseudo class is anything that styles the state of an element. So the focus state, the hover state, the active state. And we're going to say background color. I'm just going to sort of invert these. So now the background color will be black. And then we'll do the same thing here. Well, really we'll repeat this. And then when we focus, we will trigger the SVG. When we hover, we will trigger the SVG. And when it's active, we will trigger the SVG. And we'll change the stroke to white. Just like that. Now let's do a little animation. So we'll put an animation here. We'll say transition. I'm going to transition the background color 300 milliseconds, ease in out, and we also need to put a transition on the SVG, but that is going to be, instead of background color, it will be stroke. So now you can see here, we have this nice transition. So let's now let's just put a little bit of margin around the button, because right now this button is right up against the top and the left. So I think we can just add a little bit of margin, and that's just going to push things down a little bit. So, but I'm going to do that specifically for the close button. So I'm going to say margin 0.5 rems on the top. I'm actually going to say auto on, because it's top, right, bottom, left. Top, right, bottom, left. Auto on the right. 0.5 rems on the bottom and 0.5 rems on the left. There we go. And it just happens to sort of match up. I didn't plan that. That just sort of happens to match up with this this black bar here. So, yay. Beautiful. I love it. Guitar Jams is here. Angela, we're so back. You got coffee. No, I have water today. I'm just drinking. Well, I got up early. I had my coffee. I maxed out on my 2.5 cups. So I'm just trying to drink a little bit of water. So this is what I got. So welcome. I'm glad that you are here and you're able to join us. I appreciate it. And hey, do me a favor. Do me a favor. If you're new here, or if you haven't hit the like button yet, please go ahead and do so because it helps the algorithm and we can, maybe get this pushed out to more people who enjoy front-end development. We've had a really fun little growth spurt in the last month or so. Honestly, we've had a fun little growth spurt just in the last 24 hours. So yeah, if you're new here, do me a favor, go ahead and hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We would love to have you. We're such a nice group. We're a fun bunch. We just love to sit around and be super nerdy about front-end development. So yeah, go ahead and do those things for me. All right, back to the build. All right, this looks great. I'm totally happy with this. You have no idea. It has taken me years. It has taken me years to come up with a simple system for implementing mobile navigation. It has taken me a long time to come up with this kind of a simple solution. So if you see me doing this over and over and over again on every build, it's because it works for me, in my opinion. It has just taken me such a long time to do it in a way that makes sense to me, that I think is simple and that I think is accessible and that goes seamlessly from desktop to mobile. So let's see here. And it does. It does. Very happy with this. So let's go ahead and style what is happening down here at the bottom. Okay, yes, I try not to talk about this, and here's why. Because I don't want to be a YouTube channel about being a YouTuber, okay? Because the point of this channel is front-end development, but I will, obviously, it is a huge milestone to hit 1K. And I obviously want to reach that milestone, especially after a year now of streaming. So I really, really think we grew 50 new subscribers in the last 24 hours. Yeah, I think about 50 subscribers in the last 24 hours, which is really exciting. And I thank everybody for subscribing. Because I am totally living my dream of having a YouTube channel. Something I've just thought about for years, and I kick myself. I don't lose sleep over it, but I do say to myself, like, what did you wait so long for? So yeah, I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that I definitely want to reach this milestone and obviously go on to have a lot more subscribers. But also, by the way, I heard a statistic that said that 90% of YouTube channels never get to 1,000. 90% never get to 1,000. So it's a big milestone. So, oh, and Vinay 4321 is a new subscriber. Welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Happy to have you. And yeah, just excited for everybody who wants to hang out. By the way, you guys, I'm not going anywhere. This is, I'm here for the long run. I'm here for the long run. I may take the occasional Saturday or Sunday or weekend off, but for the most part, I'm here for the long run. This has become hands down the most important part of this channel. Are the live streams and showing people, showing new developers in particular, how important it is to practice. And I think it's more important than tutorials or scripted videos. Those things have their place, and there's a lot of great content out there, a lot of great channels out there doing that type of content. But to me, the most important thing that I can do to advanced front-end development is to show people that I walk the walk, which is practicing. That the way you get better is by practicing. So there's that. Okay, so let's give this drawer also, I just want to give it a little bit of a box shadow so it doesn't blend in with the background there. And I want to make sure that on desktop it doesn't have the box shadow. Let me find this here. So here's the desktop. So let's say box shadow. So we don't have that box shadow on desktop. And then here's our media query. And again, I'm going to put it here too, which is maybe redundant, but I've had issues with this in the past. And then when it's active, we do want the box shadow. And we're going to say -1 pixel, 0. So -1 pixel for the x-axis that moves it in the other direction to the left, 0 for the y-axis because we don't need the box shadow on the top or the bottom because it fills the whole screen. And then I'm going to do 1 pixel blur, 1 pixel spread. And then we'll do RGBA black, which is 0, 0, 0. And our alpha transparency, we'll just do 10%. And there we go. We have a nice little box shadow now. Beautiful. Okay. Now let's work on our little mobile buttons. And I think for this, so I do kind of want it to look like this. Okay, so I think this might actually be a good candidate for grid, which I need to practice anyways. So here's our buttons. So let's do display grid, and then it's grid template rows. Okay, hang on, I have to think about this. Maybe I should get my notes. I want my account to be, I want the first one to span both, but I want these two to be side by side. So I'm going to say 1 FR, 1 FR. Let's see if that even works. Did I do this wrong? Yes. Okay, there we go. But I want the first one. So I'm going to say user drop first of type. Grid. Is it grid column? Span 2? Is that it? Am I doing it wrong? did it right the first time. Beautiful. That's what I wanted. Perfect. So FR stands for fraction. So this is actually a good question because I just learned CSS Grid a couple of weeks ago, and I've been living in 12 column layout land for a decade. So I think in terms of 12 columns, I'm doing everything in terms of like a multiple of 3 or a multiple of 4 or a multiple of 12 and so on and so forth. So grid template columns sort of releases us from the tyranny of a 12 column layout. One FR and one FR stand for fractions. So I'm telling this to do one column, and I'm basically saying one column, one fraction, one fraction. Take the available space and do one column in one fraction and another column in another fraction. So this is like 50, the equivalent of 50%, basically, if that makes sense. And then I'm telling the first item, the first button with the class of user drop, actually, I want you to span 2 columns. So that's what we did here. We told the first item to span 2 columns, and then these 2 items span the 2 columns on the second row. I would highly recommend the Traversy Media CSS Grid tutorial. I just did a whole thing on why I want you to get out of tutorial hell, but honestly, it's a great example of why tutorials have their place. You have a new thing that you need to learn. You can go spend an hour or 2 hours or however long it is, a small part of your day. You can get yourself introduced to a new idea, and then you can go and take that idea and immediately apply it to a project. That's how I do it. So back in 2015, when working with a 12 column grid, we often used calc 100% divided by 12 along with float and clear for layout. Yeah. I mean, I did the same thing. In fact, I resisted learning Flexbox. That's what I've been using for a decade, is Flexbox. But I really resisted using Flexbox because I was very, very good at building layouts with float and clear, because that's how we did it. That's how we did it back in the early 2010s. But even with Flexbox, you do still have to calc those child elements for the most part. If you really want your layout to be even, you need to go in and assign some sort of a width to those child elements, which in many cases is appropriate. But for layouts like this, where you don't need to assign a width to those child elements, and you just need those elements to sort of get into a grid or a layout, literally a grid. CSS Grid is so good for that. I mean, I absolutely see the value in that now. So, oh, and LinkedIn Learning has some great courses on CSS Grid as well, a full course. That's good to know. That's good to know. So, yeah, there's lots of good information out there. I'm really glad. I'm really glad. Who was it? Was it Go Elmo Go that asked me to start using Grid? See? Another reason why streaming is so fun. So I don't know if I would have done it if somebody hadn't specifically said, hey, you should do this. Okay, so let's tidy this up here. So now I am going to use, well, I don't think I need, let's do this. So now we can still use justify content. Let's just experiment in the browser here. Yeah, I think that's not going to work because the parent element is actually the button. Oh yeah, with the span and SVG. So I'm actually going to, on the user drop, which is the class on the button, I'm going to flexbox just the button. Display, flex, flex, flow, row, no wrap, justify content, center, and align items, center. There, now we pulled that together. I'm going to make these SVGs a little bit smaller. There we go. I'm going to make these SVGs a little bit smaller, but we still need to maintain that tap target. So right now, the button SVGs have a default width and height of 32 rems, but we're going to adjust this. So I'm going to say user drop SVG. Let's do a width of 1.5 rems and a height of 1.5 rems. Yeah, I'm going to make them a little bit smaller, which means we just have to add more padding. Oh, let's try 0.25. So that's 20 by 20. The entire button is wide enough, so that's fine. So let's just give them maybe a little more padding. So they have that tap target. Oh, that's not even enough. That's not even enough. Okay. Okay, so we'll just change this padding to not all buttons, but just for these to 1 rem. So we've got a big enough tap target down there. It's definitely wide enough, it just needs to be tall enough. Oh, look, that turned out to be exactly 48 pixels tall. Oh, that's taller because that's wrapping. Okay, we'll fix that. Let's see here. Artie and Trees is here. Hello, nice to see you again. We haven't seen you in a while. I'm so happy that you could join us. Welcome. I am happy to see you as well. What is the use of no wrap in Flex? No wrap in Flex means that, so the button is the parent container. So we've put Flexbox on the button. The child elements of button are a span and an SVG. So no wrap means that the span and the SVG will always stay on the same line. They won't wrap to the second line. That's what that means. So, and this is shorthand. So flex flow is shorthand for flex direction and flex flow, what's the other one? Flex direction, flow. What is it? What does flow stand for? MDN flex flow. Flex wrap. So it's flex direction and flex wrap. So that's what that stands for. So let's make sure now that this button, do you see here how there is some wrapping going on there, but it's in the span. The span is wrapping. So let's add some borders around this. We can add some borders. Well, let's add a border. I did kind of want to give this a pill shape, but it spans 2 rows, so that may not work. So let's just, we can give this a background though, to have it stand out. Yeah, let's do that. So here's our first of type. Let's do background color. I'm just gonna do black, and then we'll change the color to white. And then we'll have to style that SVG. So we'll say the first of type SVG. And again, first of type is a pseudo class. First of type is a pseudo class. So we're getting the state of the, which is the state of the location in the DOM, and then styling the SVG of the first of type. So this will be stroke white. There we go. That's perfect. So now let's take our second user drop. So we'll say user drop. You could do this any number of ways. So we'll say nth child 2. We're just going to take the second item. I'm just going to say border right 1 pixel solid, and we'll do gray. There we go. I'm totally happy with this. I'm totally happy with this. This doesn't bother me in the least that this is wrapping to the second line. Literally do not care. I love it. I don't think this is going to look very good. Yeah, this isn't going to look very good on mobile yet. So and Avinash is asking, suggest the best framework for front-end developers. Whatever you enjoy using the most is the best framework for front-end developers. I have no opinion on that. I don't know every framework. I'm not an authority or an expert on frameworks. I tend to stick with the basics. Vanilla, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. My experience is that for the last 7-ish years, I was using Vue.js. I've built a handful of things using Angular, and I do enjoy Angular, and I've never used React. So whatever framework you enjoy using and that you get the best results from, that's the best framework to use in my opinion. So, okay. So I love our navigation. I love our navigation. This totally works. So let's get this class off the body and make sure that the rest of our icons are looking the way they should be. So I had the menu active class on the body. I'm just going to take that off. And yeah, we have to make sure that this is all continuing to look the way it should. Okay. So this is this third user meta group. So this is hidden. This is hidden on, let's see here. We're on mobile. So everything looks fine on desktop. Everything looks good on desktop. On mobile, this is hidden because it's inside the nav element. Then we've got search the site, which some of our mobile styles are impacting this. So we need to get a little more specific and make sure that that's not being impacted. Although we are still meeting the tap target, I think it's too small. And then we have our cart button and the menu open button. And then of course, this is putting that border on the right. So this was the user meta, but they had the same class name. That's why. So let's put this back on. So let's add, we just need to make this a little more specific with mobile buttons. Let's see here. Oops. There we go. I think that'll make it more. I'm going to put it here too. So everything looks good. And let's take out beautiful. So we kind of reverse engineered that. So I am thinking that the only thing left that I want to do here is oh my gosh. Stop. Okay, I don't know if that came through on the mic or not, but there was an emergency alert in St. Paul, Minnesota, and that's what that was on my phone. And it scared the life out of me. Okay, we're good. Could you guys, I don't even know, could you guys hear that? You okay, Heidi? Come here. Yes, it scared you too. Come here. Here, come here. You're okay. That startled me. Not an Amber Alert. No, not an Amber Alert. It just said emergency alert. There was something. So I live in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I don't live near the fairgrounds, but the Minnesota State Fairgrounds is like kind of a close suburb of St. Paul. It's kind of on, I'm trying to think of where the fairgrounds is. It's on the other side of St. Paul, and St. Paul is not a big city. St. Paul's a very small city. It just said that there was an emergency alert at the fairgrounds, something about police activity and all clear. So I don't know. Not an Amber Alert though. That's the first time I've had a an emergency alert on my phone that wasn't an Amber Alert. Let's see here. What's happening? I don't see anything here. Oh, overnight shooting in Frogtown. That's St. Paul. Kind of curious now. I don't really see. I don't really see anything. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's like on the other side of town, so I guess I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, back to the build. Back to the build. Okay, so this is the user meta wrap. I do want to make these SVGs just a little bit smaller. Not this one. That one's hidden for mobile. That's the site name, so it would be these right here. So we do need to qualify these with user meta wrap, which is the desktop. Or excuse me, it's mobile, but it's not inside the nav element. So right now, here's the span, here's the SVG. It is kind of using all of the global styles. So let's just, okay, if this is working, this is fine. So let's just adjust this inside of our media query. I think 1 is obviously too small. All right, let's go with 1.5, but we have to add more padding. We just have to add more padding to make sure that it has the tap target. So kicking it down to 1.5, the tap target is 40 by 48. So if we bump this up to like 0.75, we're at 48 by 56, but the icons are just a wee bit smaller. And then also, I just don't think we need that gap. I think it's a big enough tap target. I'm going to take out that gap. So, okay, let's go find this. Let's go find this. And Guitar Jams is asking, what's your favorite part of the process? What is my favorite part of the process? Let me think on that for a moment. Hold please. I think my favorite part of the process, I don't think I have a favorite part of the process. I mean, I love the planning. I love the problem solving. I love seeing my work instantly in the browser. Um, yeah, my yeah, I enjoy all of it. I enjoy all of it. Okay. So this button is hidden on mobile. And I think we said we need to increase the padding here to 0.75. And I'm going to take out this gap. User meta, user drop. Oh, that's right. We have these in the, might have been the wrong place. I think we have these up here globally. Right here. I'm going to change this to 0.75 and a width of 1.5. There we go. And there we have our tap target. And they're just a little bit smaller. And, oh, I think that was, I take out the gap. Yeah, I think we can take out that gap. I had it right the first time. Perfect. Honestly, I think this holds up really, really well. I'm pleased with this. So we're down to about 300 pixels, and this all looks proportionate to me. These all have the tap target that they should have. The label logo SVG is nice and responsive, so it responds as this gets smaller. I do still need to come up with a better solution for this top dark section. So, but yeah, I'm liking this. I'm enjoying this. So this looks good. So the last thing that I want to do is we'll add the JavaScript so we can open and close the menu. And then honestly, I'm good with this as our progress for this weekend. So let's just take a peek with the active class. I love how this looks. Let me move this a little bit. I love how this looks, the drawer. Everything's accessible. Everything is styled. Yeah, and I love how that looks too. And then next weekend, we are going to quickly do the layout for the footer quickly. And then we're definitely going to get this filter working. This is a good question. It's very difficult to build the front end without a CSS framework. What do you think? I disagree. I don't think it's difficult at all. I think, I mean, I think that I'm showing you that it is more than possible to build a front end without a CSS framework. I'm using vanilla JavaScript. So if the context of your question is that what it looks like I'm doing looks too complex, I have 12 years of experience. I've been doing this for over a decade. So yes, I do know how to put these projects together. I know how to build these front ends, but I'm also here every weekend practicing because a year ago I knew that I was wildly out of practice and I needed to get better and I needed to improve my own skills. So if what you're thinking is this looks too hard, this looks too difficult, it is hard. It is difficult. It is definitely very complex, but you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And if you're new to this and you're struggling and you're having trouble, I empathize with you because I was in your shoes 12 years ago when I first started. I was like, this is too hard. And that's not even what I said. I said, this is bullshit. This is too hard. Who can do this? And I practiced and I got better. So you can do it. I believe in you. You can do it. I believe in you. Okay? So you can do it. I believe in you. I don't think it's too hard. I don't think it's too hard. All right, so let's do a little bit of JavaScript now. We need a click event. We need a click event to open our toggle, and then we need a click event to close the menu. And I'm going to go to my GitHub because I've got code to do this. Responsive navbar right here. So first, we need variables for the body element, both of our buttons, and specifically, the open button. And here's our JavaScript for the products. I'm just going to collapse that. Oh, but I am going to put these up at the top. And let's do another function. We'll just call it menu open or menu toggle. Or maybe toggle menu. You can change the name. I would also encourage you, spoken English guru, I think you may be Turkish, if I'm, and the message disappeared. So sorry about that. So I do want to go back to, I want to expand on responding to your question about whether or not you think it's too difficult to use vanilla CSS to build a front end. I encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to make sure that you have a GitHub repository and that you're saving all of your projects as a library and as a form of note-taking for yourself. Because I have a GitHub repository that I've been using I started my GitHub in 2013. So for 12 years, I've had a GitHub repository. And at this point, I have 132 repositories. I save everything. And then I find myself in a position where I'm like, wow, I need to do this thing and I know I've done it before. but I don't remember it because guess what? I'm a human being and I cannot remember every single thing that I did. So use GitHub like it's a place to do note taking. And then go back in your GitHub when you have something that you want to implement and go find that code, and you can reuse those codes, reuse those code snippets. So I think this is also a really, really important part of being a front-end developer. Oh, here we go. Yeah, sorry about that. I think a couple messages got deleted by got deleted by mistake. So sorry about that. So responding to your message, spoken English, use GitHub, save your notes, save your code projects, save your code snippets, and then go back and reuse those things when you need to implement something again. And the more you practice, the more repetition you get, the easier it's going to be to remember and the easier it's going to be to get to implement things. So, okay. So here's a function to toggle the menu, and let's go ahead and use this, and I'm going to walk you through it. And I'm going to make sure that all of this is committed to the current GitHub repository for this project. So we've defined both of our buttons with the class of menu button. So we have two buttons with that class, but we're also defining open button specifically. And when you query selector all, you create an array out of those two elements. So we for each through that array, and then we add an event listener with a click event, and then on mobile, the equivalent would be a tap, because you don't click on mobile, you tap. And we're doing two things then with this line right here. So we're defining a variable called isActive, which is basically true or false. But we're also toggling menu active on the body class. So we're doing two things at once. Then we have an if statement. If is active, so that's either true or false. So if that menu active is toggled on the body class, it's true. If it's not, it's false. So if it's true, we're going to set an area attribute of aria expanded true, and that's on the button that we're clicking on. That's on the button that we're clicking on, and that's specifically the open button. Otherwise, we're going to set that attribute to aria expanded false. So that's what this is doing right here. And let's see if we can see. Let's go look at our markup. The card, here it is, right here. Here's the open button. Aria expanded false by default. Aria controls main nav, and it controls the nav element. Whoops. So now we'll go ahead and initialize this. Put it right here. And we'll check and see if it works. Look at that. So now when we click on that button, we are adding menu active. And then here's our button right here, the open button. And you can see here it says aria expanded true. So now I'm going to close that. And we pop back to aria expanded false. And the body class has been removed. So that's it. Now we have a responsive, accessible mobile navigation. It's a process. It's definitely complex. Oh, your comment got deleted by mistake. That's why he mentioned it again. So, and so that's the reason why. Yeah, it was just a snafu. So don't. That's the only reason he that he put it back in again so I could read it. So, and you're saying you have 1.5 years of experience as a front-end developer. So yeah, you're in a, I would say that where you are in your career, and I'm making a wild generalization based on the fact that you just said you've been doing this for 1.5 years, is that you're probably at a point in your career where you are starting to get into way more complex things, right? And it's probably starting to feel a little bit overwhelming, I'm guessing, based on what you're telling me. I remember where I was at about 1.5 years into my career, and this type of thing, like off-canvas navigation, JavaScript, click events, accessibility. Not so much accessibility until the last few years, but more JavaScript, and at the time it was actually jQuery, started to really play a bigger part in my front-end development. Like once I kind of nailed my basics with CSS, and I could build a layout and I could make my own buttons and I didn't need help with that stuff, this more complex type functionality started to crop up, and it definitely started to feel a lot more complex. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps. For what it's worth, I think if you're here watching this stream, asking questions in the chat, asking why I do things the way I do, I think that just speaks volumes about where you're at. So if you're struggling or you're feeling overwhelmed, from my perspective, I think the fact that you're here at all watching a stream like this and asking questions just says so much about where you're at in your career. It means that you're really trying hard to understand. You're putting in a lot of effort and work to be better at what you're doing. You're asking questions of people who have a little more experience to get feedback. Those are all really good things. So just keep chipping away at it, keep working at it, keep practicing. You're 1.5 years in, you have many more years to go. You have many more years to go. So, and you can do it. I believe in you. So, okay. Well, I'm really happy. I'm really, really happy with what we have going on here in this navigation. Here are the things that we need to come back and figure out that I honestly don't want to deal with right now. We need to do some more work to this black bar header up here at the top. And we need to do a little more accessibility work with our currency and language switcher. And we need to implement an input for the search. Those are all things that I want to do, but I just don't feel like doing them now. I want to get the rest of this layout into place. We have time. We have about a half an hour left. So let's quickly get the layout of our footer into place. And then next week, we can go ahead and actually start working on the filter, which was the whole point of this project. Although I'm not sorry that this header ended up being way more complex, because I've never worked on a header quite like this before, and I enjoyed this process. I really enjoyed this process. So let's go ahead and just let's get this footer looking the way it should. Roughly, we'll get it roughly looking the way that it should. So first we have this section, this Instagram newsletter section. All right. So let's collapse some of these things. So first, here's our grid wrap, and then we have this social wrap. And I think that main has a max width on it. And these two items are full width. So I think I'm actually going to take, so here's Instagram, and then here's the newsletter. So this social wrap, I'm actually going to put this in the footer because the footer is going to be full width. So let's put, we'll put these here, and they do have a wrap. And then let's put another wrap around. So we've got footer items, footer items, footer items, footer items, footer items, footer meta. Let's go ahead and put another wrap around these. So we'll do footer items wrap. Yeah. Perfect. So let's work on the social wrap. I feel you. I've been losing my mind for the last 30 minutes trying to figure out why my CSS was not working for my cards I am creating. Turns out was trying to style a class that doesn't exist. Story of my life. Story of my life. I mean, how many times has my CSS not worked because I spelled the class name wrong, or I used an underscore when I should have used a dash, or I used a dash when I should have used an underscore. So honestly though, it's the best problem to have because it means that it was such an easy mistake to correct, right? So I totally understand. Okay, so we'll do social wrap. And I'm going to do display grid, and then we'll do grid template columns. I guess we'll do 1FR, 1FR. And I think we also need to, so here's the social wrap. Here's the Instagram. Where's the, oh, it is lined up. Look at that. There it is. It is lined up. So let's get into our Instagram section here. And really it's the Insta grid. Oops. Oh, stop. There we go. And for this, I am going to use display flex. And we do have a little bit of space there. So I'm just going to say justify content. We'll do space evenly and align items, center. And then we'll just give this a tiny bit of gap. Well, we'll just say 1 rem for now. And we added 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And those are Instagrid figure. Whoops. And I am going to do this. So it would be 100% minus, hang on, no, 100% minus 5 rems divided by 6. There we go. So we have a width, we have a height of auto, we have an aspect ratio of 1 to 1, and these images are all squares, but in the, well, theoretically you would be pulling in an Instagram API. But if you were just putting in your own images, you could put in any aspect ratio because the container has a defined aspect ratio. So now if we do Instagrid image, we can say width 100%, height 100%, and then we'll do object fit cover. There we go. And this needs a lot more refining. So I just wanted to get in kind of the basic styles here. And then we'll go back through and do a more thorough pass. And I'm not really going to do anything with the newsletter. And then we can quickly make this responsive. So the social wrap, let's see here. We'll start our media query here. And I'm going to say social wrap. Don't we just change it to grid template columns 1FR so it takes up the full? Is that going to work? That works. That works. I know there are probably other ways to do this, but this is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to do it. So, okay. Let's quickly get our footer lined up here. So first we need to make sure that these SVGs and I think so we made our global SVG styles for the buttons. So we can go ahead and do this for, I think we can just go ahead and do this for the footer too. So I'll just say footer, SVG. Well, we might as well just go ahead and stick this down with the footer, huh? We'll just go ahead and say width, 2 rems, height, 2 rems, and I think that's going to help. Yep, look at that. Perfect. And then we have a wrap here, footer items wrap. Do we have a global wrap style? I don't remember. No, we don't. That's fine. So for this, I am going to do a max width of 75 rems, and we'll just do good old margin 0 auto. There we go. Let's see here. I'm new to coding. I made my first website and deployed it. Would you like to review it? Well, go ahead, and if you want to send me an email to my email address is in my About tab on my channel. Go ahead and send me an email and we can chat offline. And congratulations, by the way. That is a deployment, and DevOps is definitely something that I want to start doing more of on this channel. So I'm happy to see that you not only built it, but you also deployed it. So congratulations. That is an accomplishment. That is an accomplishment. So, okay. So for this, the footer items wrap, I actually think that this would probably be perfect for grid, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we did, so clearly this about column, so if we said, so we could do 2 FR and then repeat 1 FR times 4. So that would be, it happens to add up to 6. And then we could have this bottom section span 6, right? Am I thinking about that the right way? So we've got footer items wrap, display grid, display grid, grid template columns. So I'm going to do 2 FR and then repeat 5, 1 FR. Do I need a comma here? What? Okay, and then footer meta would just be span 6, right? How am I understanding this? How am I understanding this without making any mistakes? And this would be grid area or grid column. Is it area? No, it's column. Span 6. Look at that. Yeah, that's it. Wow. Okay. Well, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Let's do just some quick responsive styles here. I'm shocked that I did that quickly. So that I understood it well enough. So there's the social wrap. So I think what we want to do, we just want to change for mobile. I guess we could just make everything one column on mobile. That didn't work. this worked. Why didn't this work? Let's see here. I think that's just wrapping. That's probably, so that probably didn't work either. It's just wrapping. Okay, I'm gonna look at my notes. Hang on. Let's look at our notes, because this is why we keep notes, right? So I'm gonna look at my Traversy notes. All right, here is our notes. Yeah, this is how he writes his media queries. Grid template columns 1FR. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. Yeah, that's working. For the social wrap, that's working. Wait, did I spell something wrong? I feel like I must have, no, I didn't spell anything wrong. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Well, I'm not going to worry about it today. So the whole point of this was just to get this rough layout implemented, and I did exactly what I wanted to get done. So I'm happy with the progress this week. Let's see here. Let's get this all pushed up to GitHub. Let's go ahead and commit and just get it all pushed up to GitHub. Let's see here. So we had the header and nav for mobile, footer layout. And there we go. Beautiful. love it. I love it. How do you feel about GitHub Pages? I deployed a test on it and it does not recognize my SVGs. So looking for good alternatives. Really? So I have to tell you, I love GitHub Pages. Um, if you want some help with that, let me know. I'm happy to help you offline troubleshoot that because that could just be, that could just be a mistake. And if you want help troubleshooting that mistake, I'm happy to help you. So let's see here. So let's just go look because I don't have problems with my SVGs. So here's our category filter. And my SVGs are working. So let me know offline, go Elmo go, if you want help with that, and I'm happy to help you because I think GitHub Pages are great. I've been using Heroku for the last probably 5 or 6 years, and I love Heroku. The deployment is super easy. It was a great way to quickly get a static site up and running. And then once I started streaming here I've been streaming a year, but in the last month or so, Heroku at the end of the month has been sending me emails saying you're at capacity, you've run out of like your allotted time, and I pay for the cheapest level, which is about $5 a month. So that's how I know that some of the projects that I'm doing, the open source projects that I'm doing, are getting a lot more attention. People are noticing them from the streams, and more eyeballs means I'm running out of time. So they're literally been cutting me off like a week or 10 days before the end of the month. So I'm in the process of migrating all of my projects from Heroku to GitHub Pages because it's free and there's no time limit. And everything I do is a static build, HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. So for that reason, I love GitHub Pages. I am keeping Heroku for the things that I work on that are a little more complex. So if it's an Express app, anything that requires Node, or for as a staging site for my personal website, which uses PHP includes. So I'm keeping Heroku for my smaller one-off projects that I don't necessarily stream. And I do enjoy using Express.js. I was thinking about doing some Express project builds, which is very much a back-end technology. It is not front-end. However, if you are pulling in third-party APIs, it's really useful to understand Express so you can hide your API keys. It kind of puts your API keys in a black box. You can set up some CORS policies. One moment here. You can set up some CORS policies to restrict who can use that API. I mean, really, the best reason to use Express is to hide your API key if you are authenticating an API. So for that reason, I do have some small Express projects. So if you want to pull in an Instagram feed and you don't want your API key for Instagram, that's a perfect way to do it. Yeah, it's just really powerful and it's really useful for front end development, but definitely not, it's very much a back end thing. So I think it's something that I would actually show people how to use, or at least show people how I use it. So this is my very long-winded way of saying that I think GitHub Pages are great. So let me know, go Elmo go, if you want help troubleshooting your SVG problem, and I'm happy to take a look at it with you because you could just have an error in your XML that works locally that isn't translating to GitHub Pages, which This is such a good example of why we develop locally, we deploy to a staging site, and then we deploy to a production site. I mean, so without even realizing that you highlighted something so important, Go Elmo Go, you actually did. I have worked with developers in the past, talented, smart, wonderful human beings who just didn't understand the value of a staging site. And GitHub Pages is perfect for that, because GitHub Pages is probably going to be a different environment than your actual production site, your hosting, wherever that is. And we need to see our work locally. We need to see our work in a staging site before we ever push to a production site. So the fact that it was working locally and not working in staging, that is the browser telling you, hey, there's something else here going on that you need to fix, that you need to try and figure out and troubleshoot. So yeah, let me know if you need help. I'd be happy to help. So okay, good. And you went ahead and sent the email. I will make sure that I respond to your email in the next day or so. Thank you for that. And thank you for asking. So, all right. Well, this was quite a day. This was quite a weekend. I'm happy with the progress that we made on this. Next weekend, I want to jump right into the vanilla JavaScript to actually power this filter and get all of this working. And I expect that, let's take a look at the calendar here. I expect that we have 2 more weekends left. I expect that the filtering will take all of next weekend, the 23rd and the 24th, and I am perfectly fine with that. So the styling, I'm not worried about, because I can do the styles very quickly. It's that functionality that I really want to get nailed down and obviously make sure is accessible. And then on the 30th and the 31st, that's going to be our QA. So that's going to be where we go top to bottom. We're going to do a lot of refining of all the things that are happening in the header that I just didn't want to deal with this weekend. Although it's not that much. And I feel pretty confident that we can get this done and wrapped up in the next 2 weekends. If you're interested, I am already thinking ahead to the next project that I want to do. I was watching, so I have this YouTube channel that I enjoy. There's like 1 million YouTube reaction channels, right? It's called What It Looked Like TV. This is my, excuse me, not YouTube reaction channels, TikTok reaction channels. I am not on TikTok, but I love a good TikTok reaction channel. This is my favorite, What It Looked Like TV. And I was watching one of his videos this morning about people who what was it? It was people who got fired from their jobs going live on TikTok while they were at their jobs. And what I noted, what stood out to me about that video, other than the sheer stupidity of people doing that, is the user interface for a TikTok live. So I ended up finding, let me find it here. I just hunted around and I found this. I actually found 1 million of these, but I thought, wouldn't it be fun to just build a user interface for a TikTok or an Instagram live? So you could put in a comment and it would append it. So we would have user data, right? You could hit the little heart and we would see heart animations. And I just quickly went out and I grabbed this UI, and I think I got this from freepix.com, something like that. So I would love, after we finish our current project, to just build a fun little mobile user interface, and I thought something like this would be fun. So this is what I'm thinking that our next project is going to be. So I think that's it. If you are new here and you haven't hit the like button yet, I would appreciate it so much if you would do that. Um, if you're not subscribed yet, I would also appreciate that. Go Elmo Go says, good to know. I was too hasty on GitHub pages. I would love some help with it. I have some errands to run after the stream, but I will definitely let you know when I need more help. Yeah, I'm around. I'm around pretty much. I'm always here. Go Elmo Go. So just send me a message on Instagram and we'll set up a time and I'm happy to help. Happy to help. What the Multiverse? I also watch that channel. I think that this is hands down the best TikTok reaction channel that I have ever seen. I mean, he is absolutely doing it right. And the guy who runs this channel, I think he's just like a dad in New Jersey. He's just a dude. He's just a dad. He's just got this common sense approach and take on everything that I appreciate, and he's just so chill and he's got such a great vibe and he picks the best videos. And yeah, I could just watch his content all day every day. So if you haven't seen this guy yet, What It Looked Like TV, I really like him a lot. I really enjoy his content. So yeah, we'll do just like a fun little just like a fun user interface. I just wanted to do something kind of small and fun that maybe we could do in a weekend. I don't know. We'll see. So man being dude. Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. I like him. So all right. Well, I guess that's it. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us this weekend. I appreciate you all. We had I think today was like the busiest chat that we've ever had. So special thank you to Go Elmo Go and Monique Robinson for helping us with mods. Thanks to Akib, Spoken English, Rahul. Yeah. Thank you to everybody. Vinay. Raza was also here. Raza, I'm sorry I had to put you in a timeout, but we just needed to keep the vibe, keep the flow. So everybody have a great rest of your week wherever you are. I will see you next weekend. We will continue to work on our category filter and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.